Y continuamos con esta serie de entrevistas de live action tan interesantes, gente de YouTube. Así que por favor darle like y suscribirse porque en este momento vamos a escuchar al director de los primeros dos episodios, Mark Jobst, en esta interesante entrevista de nuestros amigos de Screen Rants y vamos a ver lo que dijo en esta interesante entrevista. Vamos allá.
And that's a big challenge. How do you dimensionalize two-dimensional characters? And that's partly about the brilliance of the writing. It's partly about casting it well, making sure that you have actors who feel warm-hearted, open-hearted, and who you believe and who you fall in love with.
Ok, así empieza la
Mark,
entrevista.
I'm very excited to talk with you. You are a TV legend.
Una
You've worked on
leyenda de
some
la
of my
TV.
favorite shows, especially Hannibal. I adore that show still to this day.
Yeah.
Oh, mira, Mark Jobs trabajó en Hannibal. Hay una serie de Hannibal, me imagino que en esa o creen que sea en la película. ¿Ustedes qué creen que sea?
Wow. What a show, huh? What a show on network television, NBC.
I know. It was amazing what they got away with at that time. And I still have my fingers crossed they'll get to come back one day. So how did you I'm almost done with One Piece, by the way. I'm halfway through the finale, and it's a very energetic and joyous ride. How did they approach you to be a part of the team, and what about the project really sparked your interest to want to be a part of it?
I've had a good and very fruitful relationship with Netflix for many years now.
Voy a tratar de no pausarla porque dura un rato.
So in those early days of Daredevil, where we were doing some really crazy stuff and really trying
Estaba trabajando en Daredevil.
And they were unbelievably supportive of everything that we wanted to do and try out. Such that the crazy stairwell sequence that we shot for Daredevil, in the single shot, so-called single shot stairwell sequence, was an insane thing to try, but they were behind me 100% of the way. And then of course I did Luke Cage and Punisher, and then came in to help.
Se ha trabajado mucho para Marvel, ¿no? También.
And then when One Piece came, I think they were just intrigued to see what I wanted to do with it. And I read the scripts, and the scripts were so fully formed, and they were so full of
Quise ver a los almirantes en Los Ángeles.
And positivity and optimism, which of course is an absolutely wonderful translation of what the manga is. And so at that time, I seemed to be being sent an awful lot of apocalyptic scripts, and the world seemed to be quite a dark place. So when you then are presented with an IP which is essentially just full of sunshine and positivity, I just thought, this is what we need right now, and I want to give it a go. And of course, it had huge amounts of drama, which is something that I come from being a theatre director for many years, and then working in some very intense human dramas in the UK and Europe, and then the action, which felt different to the Marvel action. It felt different to the action that we'd been shooting in The Witcher, and so that was really exciting for me to think about how can we evolve action into something slightly different, slightly more One Piecey. What is it that will identify it as
in live action.
I love that the action mixes the fantastical elements of its world with a very grounded handheld combat. It's awesome. So you mentioned the manga. Obviously the anime's been on for forever. Were you familiar with either prior to being approached for this show, or did you dive in once they did approach you for it?
I dived in, man. I dived in. You read those scripts and then you think, oh wow, this is live action. So you go back to the manga and you look at the crazy
al mango, dice, al manga, pendejo.
And then you look at the anime and you think, wow, this is even more crazy. And yet we've got to somehow translate this into live action, where you are limited by your own physicality to a degree. I mean, the characters have super skills, of course, but if you just try to replicate the 2D into human dimensions, it struggles.
Claro.
So it felt to me that what Steve Maeda, the showrunner, and Matt Owens, the joint showrunner, had done so well is that they've grounded it in something human. And our biggest wish was to say, let's create something which is not the manga, it's not the anime, it's its own thing. And if you love One Piece, you've got all these things to choose from. So it's not trying to take it over. It's trying to sit amongst it, to complement it. You have these three different things to enjoy One Piece with. And that's a big challenge. You know, how do you dimensionalize two-dimensional characters? You know, and that's partly about the brilliance of the writing. It's partly about casting it well, making sure that you have actors who, you know, who feel warm-hearted, open-hearted, and who you believe.
Pues que se aguanten, Kyotaka, así se dice y punto.
Casting, I am curious,
así se dice en latino.
Whenever directors come on for a show, or they, you know, they help start off a show, how involved in the casting process are you for a show like this, where obviously the creators have someone in mind, but then you are having to then, you know, fill out the roster?
I come from theater, so I think my work with actors is very important to how I shoot action shows. And I think that's perhaps one of the reasons why Marvel and I have enjoyed such a kind of fruitful relationship, is because you know, you can take two-dimensional characters and make them feel real. So we worked together on the cast unquestionably from day one. As soon as I was brought on board this show, we said we need to start casting it now. Firstly, because we wanted a global cast. So that's, you know, a lot of people to see. We saw thousands of people. Second of all, we wanted actors that had heart, that had warmth, and that we could build together, that we feel there was going to be some kind of chemistry, because that's magic. That's not something that, you know, doesn't matter how good the scripts are, doesn't matter how good the sets are, no matter how good a director I am. If you haven't got that, you can't create it, you know. And One Piece will live and die on how the audience fall in love with these characters. And so we started that process really, really early on. And as a director, I like to give my actors quite a bit of audition time. So I don't just get them to come in and read a piece and then say, thanks very much, we'll get back to you. I like to work them through scenes, work them quite hard. So we tend to do anything between 20-minute and 30-minute auditions.
Audiciones de 30 minutos.
So that casting process was, and then on top of that, I wanted physical actors. I wanted actors who could act, hold drama, emotional scenes, but also who could carry some of the action, because the way that I shoot drama, action, and the way that I wanted to shoot action for One Piece in particular was in big, long, flowing shots that follow them through from one sequence to the next, and then picked up another actor and all the rest of it. Now, if you're constantly having to replace the actor with stunt doubles, you can't do that. And that's something that I learned on The Witcher when I was working with Henry Cavill.
Witcher.
Well, I love that you took the extra steps, because, I mean, the cast...
O sea, que hace que el elenco se involucre más, ¿no? Directamente en todas las escenas. Que no se usen tantos dobles para que el drama se mantenga. Ok, es buena información.
You know, Luffy is the hardest character to cast, because
claro.
He carries the whole show.
Sí,
and
sí.
He is the drive of positivity, and he believes in having dreams. He believes in believing in yourself. He inspires people to be themselves, to be more
Así
of
es.
themselves. He wants to help them become more of themselves. And
más que ayudarlos, les muestra cómo ser.
Iñaki came in, we knew.
Le dicen Kike a Iñaki.
Knew. Partly because he made us all laugh in his audition.
Los hizo reír a todos.
Crazy and off script. Very
¡Yo voy regresado!
Deliberately.
Listo.
And it was like, oh, okay, he's got some cheek and some charm and some chutzpah to him, you know. And that's kind of Luffy, you know. And the reason why I say he's the hardest to cast is because a
mí me sorprende mucho como esta gente
in
que,
film.
por ejemplo, no
And
conoce
he
One
never
Piece
did.
porque no
I
lo
don't
conocen,
feel.
Mark
He
Jobs,
just
su
emanated
momento Steven
warmth
Maeda,
and
bueno, Steven Maeda un poco,
goodwill.
No, he nailed that part of Monkey
este,
in terms of
Matt
the
Owens, todos
positivity.
ellos
I never
se
found him bitter,
sumergen tanto en
so
One
I
Piece
love it.
Oh, that's so good.
y, o sea, se
And
nota tanto
in
que
addition to
les
him,
gusta su
though, Emily
trabajo, que son
Rudd
buenos en
is
ello,
incredible as Nami, and she
porque
has been so
luego
passionate
captan,
about
¿no?
how much of
Cómo
a
debe
fan
de
she
ser el
already was,
personaje, cómo
well
es, qué
before being cast
características.
in the show. And I'm curious, what was that like, having those conversations with her, working with her? Did she bring anything from her own fandom to the role or to the scripts that maybe wasn't already there from Maeda and Owen's work?
Emily works in the moment. So I never felt like she was bringing baggage into the room. I only ever felt that she was always responding in the moment. And that is the greatest gift you can have as a director, is when you have an actor who steps into a scene with another actor and listens and responds, but doesn't say, "Well, I don't think, Luffy would do that, or Sanji would do that." They're just in the moment and responding to it. So I never, if in her preparation for the scenes that she was doing, if she was bringing her knowledge into her prep, I never felt like it got in the way of what we were doing on the floor.
That's a great collaborative experience then.
Yes, and sort of working with Henry Cavill on The Witcher. Henry's a huge fan of The Witcher. He's a big game player and all the rest of it. And the great actors just let it inform their performance. They don't let it dominate their performance.
Okay.
Well, she does well then. She really found the right balance there.
Thank you. She'll be thrilled to hear that.
I hope she gets all the love she deserves for her work in this show. Everybody, of course, but her.
And Grant. Sorry to cut across you there. There's a slight time delay. The other lovely thing about Emily is she's beautiful, obviously, and Nami is a beautiful character, but she has so much depth to her being, and we were really keen that all our actors.
Andreita, ¿cómo estás? Buenas noches. Matt Owen sí era fan de toda la vida, ¿no? O lo estoy confundiendo. Bueno, este es Mark Jobs, este no es Matt Owens. Este es el director de los primeros 2 episodios de live action. ¿Qué te pareció, Andreita, el live action? Cuéntame.
Find it in you if it's there. And with all these actors, all the actors that we cast, I feel they have that extra element. And with Nami, it was really important again that you cast somebody who has depth to them somewhere in their soul.
8 de 10 horas. Alta la calification, eh?
2 dimensions.
It worked wonderfully, truly. I'm not trying to blow smoke with compliments of this entire interview, but I do mean it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So in talking about collaborative experiences and wanting to stay true to the source material, I know Eiichiro Oda was very,
Eiichiro Oda
with a lot of the show, and I'm curious what your experience was like working with him and, ensuring that you stayed truthful to his source material.
He's the source. I mean, why would you not go to the font? He is the font, and he knows. And he has created something that the world of One Piece adores. I think it would be an insanity not to include him in every single decision that you make and make sure that we are being truthful and honoring what it is that he's doing.
Tiene detalles que no te gustaron. Un sólido 8, dice Neta.
From the manga to live action, adaptations need to be made, and that's okay. And he was always very open to understanding that.
Así que aproveché las 5 horas. Bien, Andreita.
That transition, so long as you were staying true and honoring the spirit of what his wonderful creation is, and so
pues
as a guiding.
Comprobado, ¿no? Oda estuvo siempre al pendiente de este live action. ¿Cuántos corajes creen que haya hecho?
Well, I'm glad you had that relationship with him. As someone who has not dove into the source material, watching the show definitely has made me interested. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Grant, sign your life away, man. There's 22 years of it.
Yeah, right. All right, I got to get going on it. Now, for my final few questions, I actually did want to look away from One Piece in particular. We've talked about a few of your different shows, and I wanted to look at them. The Witcher in particular, you worked with Henry Cavill a lot on that show, like you were just talking about, and his time on the show has now come to an end. What was
Luego
like
ellos pueden hacer que lleguen este tipo de actores de tanto renombre.
Direction they'd be going with the show.
Look, Henry has done 3 series. These are demanding shows to make. They are huge, and Henry does every single beat of his stunts. He won't even allow a hand. If you're doing a close-up of a hand grabbing a sword, it has to be his hand. So
claro.
Normally, what you do is you bring in a double. Henry will go off and shoot some other scene in which he's in somewhere else, and you get somebody else in to do the hand, so that you don't have to bother your number one. Henry won't do that, and as a result of that, the results are extraordinary. You're working with an incredible athlete first and foremost, who works out hours before and hours after you've been shooting for 12 hours.
12 horas.
Who cares deeply about the work that he does. And so doing 3 seasons, in the first season, I came in on the first season, we were shooting in, 4 different countries. That's taking the whole entourage in different places, learning the stunts, rehearsing the stunts. And, when we were shooting the sword fight, for example, in the pilot, that's a big 1-shot sequence, which they're heavy swords. They're not sharp, but they're heavy. So if you get them wrong, you seriously damage somebody. So, we had a camera operator come into the show, and I think he was rehearsing that fight sequence for 4 weeks, maybe, just the camera working, learning the dance of the fight, so that he can make sure the camera is in the right place in order to land the hit without having to make a cut. And then, of course, moving into the second part of that sword fight, which is with Renfrey, where we stop the fight from time to time between the two of them to get the sense of, are they going to kiss or are they going to kill? That's draining on your number one. So after 3 series, I feel okay. He's brought this show into being, and if he feels like he's done what he can, I trust him.
It sounds like quite the tasking job. I mean, he already made it sound plenty tasking with a lot of the interviews and behind the scenes footage you'd see. But yes, with that in mind, I'm sure it's totally.
But what, that focus that he has and that desire to get it right is a gift.
Se buguearon los pinches subtítulos.
To work with, because it elevates everybody to say, good enough isn't good enough. It's got to be fantastic. And that's, we all want to work like that. We all want to make.
Se bugueó porque tartamudeó este güey. A huevo.
We don't want to make something that's good. We want to make something incredible.
Well, you guys did a phenomenal job throughout that show's run. I have yet to catch up with season 3, admittedly, but I'm hesitant because I know I'm going to get emotional seeing Cavill leave. But
yeah.
I'll have to do it because I got to know. We also,
but if you weren't feeling the joy, you wouldn't be feeling the pain, man.
This is true. This is very true. So you got to take the lows with the highs. So earlier you did talk about you reflected on your time with Daredevil and Luke Cage and Punisher, and I'm, as a fan of the Netflix universe, I'm so excited that Marvel is finally bringing those characters back over at Disney Plus. Daredevil's getting his own show. Punisher's going to be a part of that. Still no word on Luke Cage. I'm hoping him of everybody comes back. But what is that like for you? Finally getting to see some of these characters that you helped bring to life for this new generation, getting to return to screen.
They are just such great. I mean, apart from the stories that it enables us to tell, that seem to resonate with an audience. I mean, that's the best superhero stories are all allegorical. You have a fantastic amount of fun with them, but in the end, they do reflect something of our world and who we are, who we would like to become. And so to be able to tell more of those stories and to be able to pull them from the Marvel universe and create new stuff. We hadn't finished. We all knew we hadn't finished. We all felt, but there's more to do here for all those characters, you know. And
Esto ya no tiene mucho que ver con One Piece, pero pues es interesante ver cómo trabajó en sus otros programas, ¿no? The Punisher, Luke Cage, The Witcher, Daredevil. Henry Cavill, no me lo toquen, anda metido en su universo favorito, Warhammer.
You know, God bless them. What I say.
I know I'm in particular excited to see more of Charlie Cox as Daredevil. He has just killed it.
Charlie Cox is gonna.
He's another one like Henry Cavill. You know, Henry is an incredible swordsman in his own right. Charlie is an unbelievable physical athlete. You know what he. We were shooting the scene in I think it was the first episode of season 3, and he'd been in some terrible situation, and oh yes, that's right. The building had collapsed on him, and he'd escaped through it, and he was kind of recovering in the chapel of this church, and so in part of that recovery process, you know, he was doing a series of exercises to bring himself back to himself, and we were doing these sort of things, and he said, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a handstand, and I'm going to do press-ups on a handstand. I don't know if you've ever tried that, Grant, but you know, it's for the likes of you and me, it's just not wise unless you've really done some training. He just got up and he just did it. It was like, what? Wow.
That's incredible. Yeah. And it goes to show how good then he is at those fight scenes, or how capable he is for those fight scenes. That's awesome. Yeah. Now, have you had any talks with Marvel or have any hopes of getting to dive back into that world, whether it be Daredevil, Luke Cage, whoever, to, you know, get to explore more of those superhero stories?
You know, Grant, I've been so, you know, fully busy with One Piece. It is, you know, it's a really incredibly absorbing show to make, particularly to lead in terms of its, you know, visual direction and all the rest of it. It has such a huge amount of CGI to do, and sound and composition and all the rest of it. I've been so fully on that I haven't really had the chance to kind of reach out and see. Well, they would reach out to me anyway. Well, who am I? You know. Oh, hello. So no, we haven't had any conversations about that yet.
Well, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you then, that either you get those talks or that Netflix comes right back and says, all right, season 2, let's get on it for One Piece. Because I think
una segunda temporada.
I'm always on the end of the phone.
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, as we both know, there are plenty of directions for this show to go in the future. But in the meantime, I look forward to spreading the word about this season. And I truly thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time. I've loved talking with you.
Hey, Grant, great pleasure. Anytime, man. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Y bueno, pues esa fue la entrevista a Mark Hopst, el que fue el director de los primeros 2 episodios de live action de One Piece. Deja muchos detalles interesantes, una visión de un director que ha trabajado en diferentes proyectos para Marvel, Punisher, Luke Cage, Daredevil, ha trabajado en The Witcher para Netflix también. Y ver este punto de vista de él, ¿no? Sobre Iñaki Godoy, sobre Emily Root, hablando del casting, de cómo prefieren hacer ellos el casting en su particular punto. Hablando ahí con citas interesantes de Henry Cavill, que nada que ver con One Piece, ¿verdad? Pero Henry Cavill es Henry Cavill. Bueno, hasta aquí esta bonita entrevista. Falta una más que pronto verás. Así que suscríbete y deja tu like para que no te la pierdas. Y chao, chao.